Hi everyone, my name is Inara Moreira, and today, together with my colleague Jehudi, we are excited to discuss with you how you can enhance security and ensure compliance in your environment through Ubuntu Pro on Azure. Just a quick note, this session is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the event's website. So if you want to revisit this information later, you can do it at your convenience. A little bit about us. My name is Inara Moreira. I'm the Azure Alliance DTM lead here at Canonical. And Jehudi Castro, my colleague, is our Azure Alliance Enable Director, also at Canonical. So let me start by looking at the big picture. Open source is everywhere today. Almost every enterprise is using some pieces of open source in their code. This drives innovation and digital transformation, but sadly, it can also be very messy and challenging to implement it. Why? Because open source code is available for anyone to access, download, and change. This openness makes it hard to keep the code updated and secure. And it's challenging to know if the code is safe when it can come from anywhere. In fact, 70% of enterprise code bases today have some kind of security vulnerabilities. Let's look at the data that we have here on this slide. So 95% of companies use open source today. 84% of these codes have at least one vulnerability. It takes on average 98 days to fix these vulnerabilities. And each project on open source has around 64 dependencies per project, making it hard to keep everything safe. So it's very tricky to know what open source code you're using and whether it's safe or not. Some companies try to manage this, but it eats up a lot of time and it's not always successful. An example of that is what happened with Equifax in 2017. So they had unpatched vulnerabilities and it caused them a major disruption. They exposed the data of 147 million people. And even though this happened over 5 years ago, they are still getting claims from customers and it's still a disruption for them. Now, here is where Ubuntu Pro on Azure comes to the rescue. We develop Ubuntu Pro to make your open source environment safer. And you can find Ubuntu Pro on the Azure Marketplace as a public or a private offer, but you can very simply just launch a new virtual machine using Ubuntu Pro directly on the Azure portal, or also doing place upgrades. So if you're using the LTS version of Ubuntu, the free version of Ubuntu, you can do an in-place upgrade directly on the Azure portal to Ubuntu Pro. But now my colleague Jehudi will tell you a little bit more about how Ubuntu Pro can benefit your company.
We all know Ubuntu is the most used operating system on the clouds. It's stable, it's trusted, it has wide community support, and is baked by Canonical. Ubuntu is a collection of open source components that we test, we maintain, and we support. Ubuntu Pro is a solution for the problem that we were seeing previously. It is designed to provide enterprises with an extra layer of security, more services that go on top of Ubuntu Pro. It offloads most of these tasks for security, for maintenance, for compliance. Ubuntu offers, for instance, non-stop security for CVEs via unattended upgrades and extended lifespan of the packages that we support. Very importantly, Ubuntu is not a separate release. It's a subscription service that you add on your existing Ubuntu LTS. This subscription unlocks all these features that we will see further. There has been some concerns on the community about if Ubuntu has become paid. That's what it's not. Ubuntu Pro is simply a set of additional features. and it's not mandatory. It's free for personal use. For enterprises, we recommend to use Pro on production, and it's provided by Canonical at a very low cost. The first of these extra services that you can get with Ubuntu Pro is expanded security maintenance. Here on the box on the bottom left, you see the 2,300 packages from the main repository. Those are the packages that we support for 5 years on the free Ubuntu. It always has been like this. This has not changed. What we are offering extra with Ubuntu Pro, almost 10 times more packages for apps that all you know and probably use on your applications. You can see PHP, Python, MySQL, OpenJDK. We are offering also the security updates for those packages. And we are extending the support from 5 to 10 years. The other very important feature that we offer with Ubuntu Pro is compliance. If you work in a regulated environment, if you work for the federal government or in an industry like a fintech or health, it's very important to have these certifications. Ubuntu Pro does offer them out of the box. Also offers additional hardening tools. So from the set-go, your VMs are in a more secure state. Finally, we have the kernel light patch. You don't need to reboot when you have a vulnerability that we are fixing. Thanks to Ubuntu Pro, we can fix that vulnerability on the go. So you don't have downtime when you are updating your service, and you can wait till your next window without losing any kind of security. These are just some examples of the extra features you have. These are the most relevant ones, and they connected directly with security. This really helps you to secure your open source provenance so you can build on top of it with peace of mind. Next, we will see how you can do what we call an in-place upgrade. What this means, if you are using a free Ubuntu and you want to make use of this feature that we just mentioned, you don't need to launch a new VM. You could do it. If you have a continuous integration pipeline, that's an option. But if you want to do the upgrade directly on your production VMs, you can do it with a couple of commands that we can show you in the following video.
I'm going to show you a new feature that we developed together with Microsoft, and is the in-place upgrades. Here on the screen, I have the portal, and in particular, I'm looking at VM that I already have created, an 1804 Ubuntu LTS. You can see here. This is a version that after the 5 years of release is now on and of standard support. That makes it more relevant for ESM, extended security updates. That is one of the features of Ubuntu Pro. But Ubuntu Pro is relevant for even later versions. We can check how is looking regarding updates. We go to the update manager, that is somewhere here, and we can see a couple of things here. It has 76 security and critical updates pending, which is unacceptable for a production VM. All of them are ESM updates, and as this warning here is telling you, you need an Ubuntu Pro subscription in order to apply those updates. Now we are looking at a console. I SSH to the VM. We are going to run a couple of commands just to look what's the status regarding updates from the VM perspective. So if we try to update, it's going to tell us that there is nothing to update. Again, that's because this VM doesn't have the entitlements of Ubuntu Pro. It's up to date for the free updates that are provided for it, but given that it's on enough standard support, that those are not many now. You can look further about the security status with this command. Pro is the Pro client, and security status is going to give us more detail about what's going on. In particular, you can see that there are 74 pending security updates for ESM Infra and 2 for ESM Apps. That's the same 76 we saw on the portal. Why these two is relevant? It's a good example that Ubuntu Pro is not only about longevity. Longevity meaning you don't have 5 years of support, but 10. But also you have support for more packages. Those approximately 10x extra packages are provided here on the ESM apps. So as the VM is right now, it's just not possible to get those updates. You need Ubuntu Pro. And there is a new, very easy way to do it, and it's through in-place upgrades. I will change from the VM to my local machine. So this is my workstation where I have installed the Azure CLI. This is important. You need to have configured your CLI and log in into your account. And the command is just this. We are going to do a VM update. We are referring specifically to the resource group by this name, 18 LTS-RG. The name of the VM we are talking about is 1804. And this is the change. This is the update we are doing to that VM. We are changing the license type. It's going to become Ubuntu Pro. I'm now running the command. It's very important to point out that this in-place upgrades doesn't require any downtime. So it's very useful even if you are talking about machines in production. Here we have it. The output is this JSON that you can check for some relevant information, but it looks like it was successful. With this command, what we did is change the license type, but we did not activate Ubuntu Pro yet. We can do it. How? We go again to the VM and we run this command now with sudo. It's sudo pro auto attach. It's going to take some seconds because it does a few actions that you will see. It's going to enable by default some of the services. There are others available like FIPS, CIS hardening, that you can activate on demand. The two services that we are talking about are ESM apps and ESM infra. Those are going to be activated. And also the live patch that are updated for the kernel without needing to reboot are going to be activated. Here is the end of the command. As I said, there are some services enabled, including apps, infra, and live patch. Now this machine is entitled to Ubuntu Pro. Now we should be able to run the updates. So let's repeat the commands we did before, making sure that the new repos are now taken into consideration. You see that indeed now there are 76 packages. The output before was 0. Let's run that update. Now let's upgrade the commands with this, the packages with this command. This will take some minutes because those are a lot of packages. There you have it. Those were a lot of updates that talks you about the value of Pro. Are only available if you have the correct entitlements. We are back at the portal, and I did run the check for updates, so we have the last information. Remember that this can be periodically and automatically run, but now the status is that there are not pending updates. This message here, the same as this one, is going to go away very soon. There is a small lag because we just upgraded to Pro, but it's very clear that there are no security or critical updates. Important to point out that we are fully integrated with the dashboard, and you can use the schedule updates, the one-time updates as you wish. That's everything. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's what we had to cover today. I invite you to go to our hero session and check the available content we have for you. And we appreciate your time with us. If you need more information about Ubuntu Pro on Azure, here is our website where you can find information, where you can contact us. And also, your feedback is very important. So if you like our session, you can go to this link and complete your session evaluations. Thank you.